Pocahontas is running through the forest with John Smith by the hand, and she sings this lovely song, which I'm not going to sing. But in this beautiful song called Colours of the Wind, she sings this lyric, which is phenomenal. If you walk the footsteps of a stranger, you learn things you never knew you never knew.
What if you had the opportunity to have a coffee with your 18-year-old self? What advice would you offer? And would you actually take the advice on offer? I'm absolutely fascinated by that question. I interview people from all walks of life, from Heineken Cup winners, New York Times bestselling authors, local taxi man, you name them, I've interviewed them. Be inspired, learn and grow from the experience of others. Welcome to the What I Know Now podcast with Mark Kelly. So today's guest is best-selling author, seasoned businessman, business blogger, business coach, CEO, mentor, motivational speaker, all-around great guy, Colm O'Brien. Colm, welcome to the show today.
Lovely to be here, Mark. Thanks for having me on.
So for those who don't know Colm, here's a funny story for you. Colm's jumped out of an airplane twice, and the second time he jumped out of it, the parachute didn't work. So there you go, Colm. What about that?
Look, obviously I survived.
You did. Colm, would you mind just giving ourselves and the listeners a little bit of an overview about your journey to now?
Look, I'm a long time at it. That's the first thing. I wanted to be a school teacher when I started out, Mark, and I just didn't get the honour in Irish that you needed here in Ireland to get into teacher training college. So I ended up stumbling into the cafe business. I won't even say the industry rather than the business, because I was an employee for the first maybe 20 years of my career. But I really loved the cafe business. I love people, it turns out. And so 20 years it worked for the man, and then decided to bet myself and set up my own Beauty's Cafe franchise in Limerick, and then it failed. And from the ashes of that has come a currently successful, thank God, business. We do about 8.5 million a year in revenue. We supply over 32,000 children every day with a packed lunch from a starting point of 27 kids only. It's gone to 32,000 kids per day over the last 14 years. So feeling quite blessed at the moment, Mark. So
you went on the interesting journey of wanting to go be a school teacher, and then working for a company, and then becoming an entrepreneur, having the feeling of failing. For a lot of people, they might actually want to go back and do that teaching gig. It sounded a little bit less stressful and less kind of things on the line. What made you want to actually go and set up another business, even though your first one wasn't successful?
I suppose probably the reality was my back was against the wall. We lost quite an amount in that first business failure, and so we had to do something. And so I had also got a taste for not working for the man, and decided that I'd rather continue to bet myself and see how it pans out. Interestingly, however, I've set up a second business called Colm O'Brien Motivation, which is in effect me teaching, which is I think quite ironic, except now I'm not teaching school kids. I'm teaching small business owners how to scale, etc.
So every day is a learning day, and I thoroughly believe that as well. Tell me, was there anything around leveraging your people to be more productive in your new business and giving a lot more autonomy? Because I remember you've mentioned things like that before.
Yeah, look, I suppose I do a lot of blogging, as you know, and through Colm O'Brien Motivation, and I did a trilogy in the last couple of months. I do this thing, Coffee with Colm, every Sunday it goes out, and the trilogy spoke of the three elements that I believe are crucial to any sustainable business. And the first one is brand. We all need to have a brand. It's not necessarily a trademark, but a brand that people know, and they know what it's about, and they know what to expect from it. So we need a good brand. We need great systems to run our business. I mean, we're producing 32,000 lunches every day. Every one of them is different. So Mark Kelly gets his with his name on it. Colm O'Brien gets his with his name on it. Johnny Maloney, Mary Murphy, each of them is different. We do that 32,000 times. So systems are hugely important. We must have fantastic systems. So you need good people and great systems. And you need good brand and great systems. The third ingredient, the secret ingredient, is great people. Great people, for sure. We have 130 people now employed in Carambola nationwide, and they feed Johnny every day. It's not for me anymore. They feed Johnny, and so we need the drivers to get up at 2 a.m. and come pick up their van and travel up country to be at the school before the school opens. Do you know what I mean? So that's where great people comes in. And one of the things I suppose I learned over the years was to let go. I was a little bit of a control freak back in the day. I was the one who knew best.
Yeah.
And I can handle any problem. But I realised that was actually stalling the growth of the business. So I developed this two philosophies that if I might share with you, because I think they're probably important. DBMPBMS. Don't bring me problems, bring me solutions.
Great mindset. Great mindset.
DBMPBMS, because it was too easy for people to walk into my office and say, oh, the problem is blah, and dump on me, right? And then I'd say, no problem, go out, give me half an hour, I'll have it fixed for you. And I realised, hang on a second, I was fixing all these problems. So rather than continue to fix problems, I allowed people and empowered them. Don't bring me problems, bring me solutions. And then the second philosophy was MBE, managed by exception. So when we meet on a Monday, we only look at the problems. We look, first question is, how many lunches did we supply last week? 153,473. And the next question is, how many complaints did we get? And we only focus on the complaints. So the average is only about 4 complaints in a week out of 150,000. So
wow. So what came up with that mindset? Because that sounds really good. The clarity of mind there, fantastic. Because thinking about the businesses I've run in the past, people come to you with the problems because they want the solutions, they want to vent, they talk about this, they major in the minors rather than majoring in the majors. How did you turn that around? Because a lot of business owners are still in that hole, pretty much.
Yeah, I suppose I got tired of it, and I realised that I was the go-to person for everybody. And I also realised that there are great people out there, and I was curtailing their own creativity by providing solutions. So I just turned it on its head. And to start with, by the way, when I was learning how to let go, I began to ask people the question, what would you do if I wasn't here?
Great question.
You know, that's got people to stop in their tracks and sort of say, oh, I never thought of it like that. And I said, okay, well, if I wasn't here, what would you do? And if they gave me a plausible answer to that question that had no inherent risk that I could see, I'd say, great, try that. Yeah, and that gave them it empowered them over time to trust their own judgment. And now they come in on a Monday and they tell me, by the way, this happened last week. I rarely get a phone call, a fire brigade call on any given day. I usually hear about stuff the following Monday, last week, blah, blah, blah happened. We did X, Y, Z. Johnny was fed, no issue.
Joe, I think that's brilliant, because once you lead with the intention you want to do the right thing and the customer's at the center of everything you do in terms of your strategy, it usually works itself out. And I find that you're right, when you do actually answer all the questions yourself, you don't get smarter. And actually, in other words, you go backwards, they go backwards, they're not empowered, they're not thinking for themselves. And by not being in the room, people have to answer those questions. It's brilliant. Yeah, it's really, really, really good advice. So tell me a little bit about manning the train.
My first business failed. We touched on that earlier, right? In the meantime, I was looking. I needed to reinvent. I needed to figure something out. First thing I did was I handed Bewley's back with their agreement. I handed them back their brand name. And then I took that, we rebranded to a company called Cruises Coffee Company. And the reason we did that was because we were on Cruises Street in Limerick.
Oh, very good.
Not very bright, but observant, right? And we then took the Cruises Coffee Company brand and went to the Liffey Boardwalks in Dublin. Some of your viewers may know the Liffey Boardwalks in Dublin. There's some coffee kiosks along there near O'Connell Bridge, near the Halfpenny Bridge.
We all do, yeah.
Yeah, and they became Cruises Coffee kiosks at the time. On the train one day, going from Limerick, because I was living in Limerick at this stage, up to the kiosks in Dublin, and I met a man on the train. I gave him my business card, as you do, and it was a Cruises Coffee Company business card, and on it it had a strapline. I'm going to put it up here to the camera. I'm not sure if you see that.
We can see it. Yeah. How can I help Colm O'Brien, the head of the whole shebang?
All right. And this guy says to me, he says, "That's very interesting." He says, "What does it mean?" And I said, "What's what mean?" He says, "How can I help?" And I said, "That's my offer to the universe. If you think I can be of help in any way, shape or form, at any stage, for anything, pick up the phone, give me a shout. If I can help you, I will. If I can't, I won't." And he said, "Fair enough." Put my card in his pocket, and I never heard from him again. Right? I thought I never give it any more thought. However, 3 months from that day, or thereabouts, guy rings me, and it was your man's boss in Limerick. We'd both been travelling from Limerick to Dublin. He went back to Limerick, I went back to Limerick, never saw each other again. And but his boss rang me and said, that guy that you met on the train has left our organisation, right? He was only with us for a short time. Your paths crossed. You gave him your card. It says, "How can I help?" See, you're in the food game. Are you interested in doing a pilot project for healthy school lunches in one school in Moyross here in Limerick? I said, I am, yeah, because I was looking for a way to trade my way out of the difficult situation I was in. Now, I was cool about it, Mark. I didn't panic. I sort of said, yeah, we could look at something like that, come in for a cup of coffee. I was panicking, right? Your man came in for a cup of coffee. We won the tender. Turned out 2 years later that nobody else tendered. It was just us, yeah. We won the tender. 27 lunches day one, 32,000 lunches per day today.
Man on the train.
Man on the train, yeah.
So
and the good news is, if I may, is there's a man on the train moment waiting for everybody. But if I may, there are two criteria that must apply, okay? Must apply, in my opinion, from my experience. First criterion is we must be out there doing our thing, for sure. Man on the train would never have knocked on my door, Mark, and said, I've got this great idea for you. Couldn't possibly happen, okay? But the second criterion that must apply, in my opinion, is we must go out to be of service first. My business was dying, but I didn't panic. I didn't go to him and say, "Oh, do you buy coffee? Would you buy some coffee off us? Help a fella out." Say, we make sandwiches. Do you know what I mean? But too many people do panic.
Of course they do.
Too many people lead with the sale.
Of course.
And all they do, it's a bit like somebody rushing into a park to feed the pigeons. Hey, come here! I got seed. Come on, feed you. Of course, the pigeons just fly away.
Yeah.
Whereas the approach is put it out there quietly and see what happens.
100%.
So no agenda is my.
So it's all about leading with generosity. That's what it's about. Have you got three top tips?
You need a vision. We call it a 2020 vision, and we just talk about that for a second, right?
Yeah.
It's not enough. Too many business owners that I bump into are working, they're in the trenches and they're working towards the next quarter, and then they're looking at next year and wondering what the heck they're going to do, and their vision, their field of vision is very short, okay? We all of us need what I call a 2020 vision. So what I recommend people do, and I ask my clients to do this, and I do it myself, is I ask them to ask themselves, what age are they today? I'm 54. And in 2020, on their birthday, what age they'll be. And all going well, we'll all arrive there in 2020 in good shape. And then I ask them to ask themselves, how would they like that day to look? Not how would they like their business to be in 2020, but how would they like that day to look? One day in 2020, right? Because our businesses are all about, our lives are not all about our businesses, but too often we get bent out of whack and it becomes business 24/7. But our business really is just a creative outlet for you and I and those out there listening and reading and listening and watching. It's a creative outlet for us to go out and express ourselves to the world, and in the hopes that we get a few bob to fund the lifestyle, right?
Yes.
So at the end of the day, we're looking to build a life. And so one very powerful exercise is for people to write a story how they would like their birthday in 2020 to look. And from that, they'll be looking at relationships, and from that, they'll be looking at health, and from that, they'll be looking at finance, and from that, they'll be looking at being able to turn the mobile phone off for the day and not being contactable 24/7, etc. Right? And perhaps the car they'd like to be driving, or perhaps they want the car to start on their birthday in 2020. Right? It's about progress, but it's about progress towards a particular destination. Right? Too many of us get in the car of our lives and just drive around in circles.
Yeah.
Flat out, let's go faster, see does that work, right? Yeah. Whereas in fact, we need to take time out and say, hang on a sec, where are we headed? And if we're headed towards Letterkenny, well then we need to just slow down and take steps, positive, proactive steps towards that. Health, relationships, finances, business, career, etc. Is that okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
brilliant.
First thing is a 2020 vision is the most important thing. We don't know where we're headed. The rest is just work.
Yep.
Okay, so that's the first thing. Second thing, your business can never outgrow you. Something that I learned many years ago. Your business can never outgrow you. So Karen Bowler's business at the moment is trundling along at about 8.5 million, which is great, right? I'm delighted. But it's not 10 million. And do you know why it's not 10 million?
Because of you.
Thank you very much indeed, because I'm the blockage, Mark. Well said. But I am. I'm currently not 10 million, but I will be very soon, right? And once I become 10 million, the business will follow suit. And Bobby Kerr, that good friend of mine, like if Bobby was to hand me his 30 million plus business tomorrow and say, you're a great guy, Colm, we've been friends for years, here, run it, I would very quickly and very successfully bring it back to 8.5 million.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I got to grow before my business will grow, and your business can never outgrow you, and your listeners or your viewers' business can never outgrow them. So how do we grow? One of the ways that I recommend we grow, I'm going to talk, if I may, about Disney. I'm a huge Disney fan.
Yeah, go ahead.
And Pocahontas was one of my favorite movies back in the day when the kids were small. I used to rent the videos. And Pocahontas is one of my favorite movies. In it, there's this lovely scene. Pocahontas is running through the forest with John Smith by the hand, and she sings this lovely song, which I'm not going to sing. But in this beautiful song called Colours of the Wind, she sings this lyric, which is phenomenal. And the lyric is, if you walk the footsteps of a stranger, you learn things you never knew you never knew. Powerful.
Yeah.
Things you never knew you never knew.
Yeah.
See, there's loads of stuff, Mark, that you and I don't know. Agreed, yeah?
Absolutely.
Infinitely more stuff out there that you and I don't even know that we don't know.
Blind spots as well.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
So the question is, how do we stumble across stuff that we don't even know that we don't know in the first place? And one of the ways of doing that, in my opinion and in my experience, is read books, think with authors that we've never thought with before.
Yes.
Ta-da.
Yes.
The audio version is available free for anybody who wants to. I'm not in the business of selling books. But we do need to read books by other people to see how they think. You mentioned about OPE, other people's experience. The best way of learning somebody else's experience is to buy their book and read it.
100%.
You take 40 or 50 years of experience, spend 20 quid to obtain it.
It's crazy. Or you go to the library and you get in the library. My favorite place is the library. And I back up what you're saying. And also a really, really good way to learn is from empathy. So I really like that you talk about your customer complaints, because you're in the shoes of your customers, and if you can understand from the shoes about why those complaints happened, and you're truly walking a mile in your customer's shoes, they won't happen again, because you're going straight into that. So I think empathy and learning, I think that's brilliant. Yeah, and what's the third piece of advice?
Third piece, we spoke about it earlier, it's networking. It's no question. No man is an island, and if you're going to achieve anything of any significance, you need other people around you. So you got to get out there. One of the things that B&I taught, and they spoke about the VCP model. And V stands for visibility. We must be out there doing our thing to become visible. If we're out there doing our thing long enough, we'll become C, credible. Is that okay?
Brilliant.
Yeah?
Yes.
So V is being visible, C is become credible. In other words, out there being generous, showing we've got integrity so that people will refer us to others, etc. And V plus C equals P, equals profitability. So if we're visible long enough to become credible, with integrity long enough, eventually we should become profitable.
That is a brilliant acumen. That is absolutely brilliant acumen. And so many people have got fear of networking. Do you know why people are fearful of network? Do you ever kind of come across people, they just didn't want to get themselves out there?
Yeah, regularly, unfortunately, and it's a shyness thing. I think people think networking is where they've got to turn up and do something and make their sales pitch. For me, networking is not that. Networking is going out and meeting people. Simple as, and it's let's take the mystique out of it. Go and have a cup of coffee with somebody. No agenda. If you go to try and sell them something, you're already on the back foot because you're looking for the angle. And you and I have experienced it all the time. It's turning up, and they're making small talk, but the eyes aren't with you.
They're already scanning the room for more people more important.
Absolutely, anybody more important and only waiting to get past you,
Do you know the masterful networkers? This is what I've learned in my life. Is they turn up, they ask open questions, they're interested in other people, and then the most interesting people in the room, because everybody likes to share their story, and they don't need to sell anything, and then they do one small thing at the end, is they follow up. Follow up. That's it. That's the secret to it. What's the best piece of advice that you'd give to your younger self?
Yeah, I think be braver. I come from a regular home, North Dublin City, and my dad was an employee all his life. My mom was a stay-at-home mom all her life, and that's what I knew. And so when I joined the workforce, I told you I wanted to go to college, but I didn't get the honor. So I got a job because that's what my dad did. I became an employee. And I remember in those early years struggling with the fact that I was only 17, 18 and I was a trainee manager, and I wondered what these important suppliers, reps would think of me, this young fella in a suit. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So I think I'd like to think my kids are braver at this stage than I was when I was their age.
Well, do you know what? It's fascinating that you would want to be braver. You've done so many different things that for a lot of people that feel you've been really brave. But it's great perspective. I really appreciate your advice, and I thanks so much for offering your advice today. Because I know our listeners are going to get a lot. Even though I've met with you a few times, I've generated so much from this conversation. It's been really good, and thank you so much for your time today.
Pleasure, Mark. Keep up the great work.
I'll see you soon. Bye.
Take care.
You've been listening to the What I Know Now podcast with Mark Kelly. To subscribe to the podcast, just enter WIKN into iTunes or any Android podcast of choice, or check out the website at www.wikn.co. I'd love to get your feedback, either positive or negative, about the episode and what action you're going to take. I look forward to seeing you next week, and remember, have an absolutely super day. Bye.